Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Lyle Lyle Crocodile, making $4.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $28 million and a worldwide total of $36 million. So despite having a bigger drop than last weekend, it still held pretty well, just dipping around 42%, which is probably what you would expect for a family film to hold during this stage of its theatrical run. It is definitely not unlike anything we've seen before with like family films prior to this one. It does seem to be following the same trend where word of mouth is helping it out and it's having steady hold, which is very promising. And it looks like, once again, given that the film is the only family film out right now, it should at the very least surpass its initial production budget of $50 million. Whether it be domestically or worldwide, I think it will be able to do that if it manages to leg out strong, which I think it is showing that it's going to. And given how close the numbers are both domestically and worldwide, it should get to that total very soon. So at least there's that silver lining. But outside of that, yeah, this movie still isn't really doing all that much. In the grand scheme of things, it is still a long way from being anywhere near successful. It is definitely not going to be able to cross the doubling point, or maybe it will, you never know, but it is looking very unlikely, and you can tell that Sony isn't too happy with how this movie is doing as they pushed back their next family film, Harold and the Purple Crayon, which was originally supposed to come out on January 27th of next year and is now coming out on June 30th, which, if you didn't know, is also the same day as the 5th Indiana Jones movie. Good move, Sony. So yeah, overall, while it still has the one silver lining of being able to get to the initial production budget, either domestically or worldwide, I do not see it getting anywhere near its doubling point. This is still rather a pretty big disappointment nonetheless, sadly. Number 4 was Halloween Ends, making $8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $54 million and a worldwide total of $82 million. Folks, on this show, we have talked a lot about second week holds and how it is crucial that your movie has a good hold in your second weekend. And there have been many times where we have seen movies plummeted in their second weekend. And there is no exception when it comes to Halloween. Last year, the previous one, Halloween Kills, dropped 71%, which was already a devastating blow. This weekend was an even worse second week hold than Halloween Kills, as this movie dropped, I kid you not, 80% in its second weekend. Not 50, not 60, not 70, 80%. Now, sure, this doesn't really mean anything for the film's success, as it has already doubled its budget domestically and quintupled it worldwide. I'm pretty sure I used the wrong term there, but I digress. This movie is already pretty successful, but no matter how you sugarcoat this, whatever way you look at it, this is a really bad second weekend hold. Obviously, word of mouth is not doing this movie any favors, and I feel like I forgot to mention this last weekend when talking about this movie, was the fact that it was also simultaneously released on Peacock the same day it went to theaters, and I have a feeling that a lot of people chose to watch this at home, and I also have the suspicious feeling that many of them didn't watch this on Peacock, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is a devastating second weekend drop off. I was expecting it to not hold well, but I wasn't even expecting this to happen. I don't even think this was a possibility, and it really shows that this movie is definitely on its way out, as it pretty much only has this weekend coming up, as it is the weekend before Halloween. And well, once Halloween is over, you know what time it is. So this movie is pretty much definitely going to be on its way out. I'm not sure if it'll be able to bounce back from it, even with it being already hugely successful. But yeah, this is a pretty bad drop off for Halloween Ends. Number 3 was Smile, making $8.4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $84 million and a worldwide total of $166 million. Clearly, Smile does what Halloween Ends doesn't, as not only did this movie overtake the Halloween sequel this weekend, but it was also able to drop just 33% from last weekend, which isn't even that big of a difference between the holds from last weekend, which is insane, and also very fascinating to see this new original horror film being able to take on Michael Myers' quote-unquote final movie, pretty much. It is very fascinating to see this movie just completely dominate the box office as of right now. And it was not only able to overtake Michael Myers, it was actually also able to overtake Ghostface, as it surpassed Scream 5 domestically to become the third highest grossing horror film of the year domestically, as it sits behind The Black Phone and Nope. But also, it should be able to surpass The Black Phone soon, as it's just $5 million away from that film's entire domestic theatrical run, which is outstanding. I definitely think it's going to surpass that film. Don't know if it's going to get to Nope's numbers. It may seem like a bit of a reach for me, per se. So, well, yeah, I don't think it's going to surpass Nope domestically. However, I do think it's going to be able to surpass Nope worldwide, as it's also getting very close to that film's worldwide numbers, and I think it's got enough in the tank to surpass it to become, I kid you not, the highest grossing horror film of the year worldwide, which is outstanding. Once again, keep in mind, folks, this was originally supposed to be dumped on Paramount Plus. Just look at how much money and success they would have lost had they kept going with releasing this on Paramount Plus. I really do hope that not just Paramount, but other studios learn the right lessons from this, that maybe sometimes it's okay to take some risks and maybe reconsider dumping your movies on streaming services and giving them theatrical releases, as we are seeing here that how that could work tenfold. This movie is so successful. There is no way this isn't one of the most profitable movies of the year, and I'm just genuinely impressed with how well it's doing. I do think it's in a similar predicament with Halloween Ends. It's not in the same boat, clearly, but it's in a similar scenario where the film there really only has one more week left in the tank this weekend, because it is the weekend before Halloween. And as you know, once Halloween ends, I think that I don't think a lot of people are in the mood to get scared as much as they were back in October. So we'll see how the movie does after this upcoming weekend. But even so, this movie has just done so fantastic, it probably wouldn't mean anything. So yeah, overall, another solid weekend for Smile. Number 2 was Ticket to Paradise, opening with $16 million domestically and $98 million worldwide. So last week, when I was discussing my predictions for this movie, I said this was a bit of a wild card. I really didn't know how well this movie was going to do, how many people were interested in it, and it certainly surpassed my expectations. It did a lot better than I was expecting it to do, and just the sheer fact that I was able to open as big as it did shows that, well, for starters, that the rom-com genre isn't quite as dead as people lay on, but many people were also really interested in seeing this movie. I think there were a lot of factors at play catering to this film's success. Number 1, older audiences are showing signs of returning to movies. They are clearly very interested in. We're seeing a good number of movies do way better than what people expect, and I feel like we should stop trying to underestimate older audiences. We are definitely out of that stage of the theater of the post-theater closure era, if you know what I mean. And it seems that if you're catering to the older audiences and they're interested, they'll go out and see it. I also think that the big stars, George Clooney and Julia Roberts, headlining the film also helped. It really seems that in order for rom-coms nowadays to be as successful as they are, they really need those big names to draw people in. That's also what kind of helped The Lost City in the way, the fact that it had big stars like Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum headlining it. This is very similar, and what's also helping this movie is the budget and how it was released internationally. This was a really cheap movie. It only cost $36 million to make, and because it was released internationally pretty much a month before it hit theaters stateside, it was able to not only double its entire budget internationally, but it's now just $2 million away from surpassing the $100 million milestone worldwide. I don't know about you, but I was not expecting this movie to get even close to those numbers. It really shows that this movie is resonating internationally, so we'll see how it fares domestically. I'm not sure if it's going to do as well as it did internationally, to say the least, but it could get pretty close. I feel like best case scenario, it's probably going to leg out similar to stuff like The Woman King, or maybe even Where the Crawdads Sing. I feel like they were catering to similar audiences, and I feel like this is really solid counter programming amidst the big blockbusters that are about to hit theaters. You could either see one of those, or see this rom-com with George Clooney and Julia Roberts. I feel like that will help the movie out for sure as well. So yeah, overall, this is a very solid opening weekend for Ticket to Paradise. We'll see how it goes from here. Obviously, we'll see how it compares to the international numbers, but so far, domestically, so good. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was Black Adam, opening with $67 million domestically and $143 million worldwide. This is obviously the biggest opening weekend we have seen for a movie since Thor: Love and Thunder, but this is also the 7th biggest opening weekend of the year, behind Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Minions: The Rise of Gru, Top Gun: Maverick, Thor: Love and Thunder, Jurassic World Dominion, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It is the 5th biggest opening weekend for a movie released in October, behind the original 2018 Halloween, the first Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and of course Joker. And this is also the biggest opening weekend where Dwayne Johnson is the full star, so not counting stuff like Moana or the Fast and the Furious movies. So yeah, this pretty much fell in line where I thought it was gonna open. I didn't think it was gonna knock everyone's socks off, but I definitely thought it would at least impress or maybe even surprise some people. The marketing was really solid. There was a lot of buzz leading up to the film, definitely a lot more buzz surrounding the film much closer to the film's release than like when the initial trailers came out, that's for sure. And there were some rumors spreading around that sparked a lot of attention as well, and it just seemed like a lot of people were really interested in this movie. Now, as far as the budget goes and how this helps Warner Brothers, as once again this is their last movie of the year, mind you, as far as its opening against its budget, I think it's a decent opening. It did cost $200 million, so it's only needs like roughly about like less than $60 million to surpass that. And if it really legs out well and word of mouth is strong, it could double that worldwide. I don't know how it's going to help Warner Brothers out, but if just in regards to the movie itself, I think it's going to do pretty solid numbers. I don't know how it's going to help Warner Brothers either way, but still, it seems to be in a good spot. Audiences are certainly liking it more than the critics. Reviews definitely got worse and worse as We got closer to the release date, that's for sure. If you saw my review, you know that I didn't really like this movie, but audiences are liking this much better. It is interesting to see the Cinema Score ratings, though. We'll see how that affects it. It got a B+ on Cinema Score, which surprisingly is less than what Ticket to Paradise got. That got an A-. So we'll see how it legs out, how word of mouth is, but given how dry these next few weeks are gonna be, before obviously Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think it's going to leg out strong. These will definitely be the best 2 weeks the film has for itself, as there really isn't much coming out, and I think word of mouth will help it out a bit, even with the concerning B+ Cinema Score. But yeah, overall, this is a decent start to the movie. Again, we'll see where it goes from here, but right now, I think at least this is a pretty decent, solid opening weekend for Black Adam. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, and normally this would be the part of the video where I discuss the upcoming new movies hitting theaters and where I think they would land in the top 5. And while we do have a new wide release, that being Prey for the Devil, and I do think it's going to crack the top 5, I don't think it's really going to do much to affect the top 5. The marketing has been very lacking. There is very little buzz or anybody really talking about this movie, and I just don't think its opening is going to be one of the stronger openings we have seen for horror films lately, like Smile, Halloween Ends, or even Barbarian. So yeah, not expecting much for Prey for the Devil, but we will see how well it truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied? Unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.